Hello and welcome to Newsfeed on Trust TV. My name is Dorcas Yakubuzala. Today's episode is special as we will be bringing to your screen what you missed out and what trended on the hashtag End Bad Governance protest. I bet you wouldn't want to miss Trust TV's special coverage. Enjoy the highlights together with a couple of reports that were put together by some of our reporters, including myself. We'll be back shortly with the full gist. Nigeria is currently experiencing the commencement of a 10-day protest that began on August 1st, 2024, with citizens demonstrating against economic hardships and government policies. The protest, tagged End Bad Governance, has seen widespread participation across multiple states, including Lagos, Borno, Kano, Rivers, and the FCT. The protesters have expressed dissatisfaction with the current administration, calling for the restoration of fuel subsidies, reduction of electricity tariffs, and reversal of recent increases in educational and import fees.
We are hungry. My children cannot eat. Beans, 1 mood is 3.5. Oil is 2,000. Gari is 1.5. My children cannot. Yesterday, I have to pay for the one I'm holding before and buy another one for my children to eat. I cannot tolerate it anymore.
We don't to suffer for this country. For how long continue to suffer like this? How much be our money will get for this country? We just did the suffer for this country. Now we don't tire. A small country like Burkina Faso fit set us stand up for that country. We Nigerians will fit do one now.
The government should do what we want. They should change. They should bring down the price of fuel. We need our subsidy back. The government should not. The police should not come here to tell us what to do or where to go. We are outside. We want to get to the government and not to the police. So the government should do what we want. Bring back subsidy.
Bring back subsidy. And kidnappers. And Boko Haram. Bring back subsidy.
Yes, Nigerians are out to express their fundamental rights as enshrined in Section 40 of the Constitution to assemble, associate, and protect their interests. And the protests have so far been going well, and we are here as lawyers to guide the people and to lead them to carry out their right to protest within the bounds of the law.
In Abuja, the demonstrators have been restricted to the Moshood Abiola National Stadium. This restriction follows a court order issued by Justice Silvanus Origi of the High Court of the Federal Capital Territory. The order was in response to a request from the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, who cited concerns about potential unrest and damage to public property if the protests were allowed to take place elsewhere in the city. This, however, was not obeyed as protesters stormed the central business area in an attempt to enter the Eagle Square. They were, however, met by the intense resistance from security operatives. As you can see right ahead of me, the security personnel are firing tear gases at the protesters. And the reasons is because they don't want them to exceed that limit. From our own understanding, they don't want them to exceed that limit, and that is why they are firing, the tear gas at the protesters. But then the protesters are unarmed. The government's response in Abuja has been robust with heightened security measures aimed at preventing violence. Some arrests were made while an attempt to arrest a journalist was stopped by the FCT police PRO.
We came here and we are covering the protest, and the Commissioner of Police personally came on. They came down on the journalists, asking us not to cover the protest, and he personally came to me and he collected my phone, and he even asked the police to get me arrested. When I was being taken into the van, some of other journalists and the public relation officer now raised alarm that this is the chairman of NUJ, that I should not be taken away.
Though the situation remains fluid with fears of potential violence, the protests, however, reflect deep-seated frustrations among Nigerians with the current state of governance and economic conditions.
On the first day of the protest, hundreds of residents gathered to voice their frustrations over the persistent economic hardship in Nigeria. This protest, organized by the Take It Back movement, is a response to the rising cost of living and the increasing price of essential goods. Protesters carried placards with messages such as "End economic hardship" and "We deserve better." The protest here in Lagos is part of a larger movement, with similar demonstrations happening across the country.
Our salaries are not increasing. Even if fuel is going to the sky, why is the government? Does the government want to tell us now that they are clueless? The government is not clueless now, and the reason why they don't care is because they are not feeling it. Because we are here stressing about buying malt for 700 naira. They don't care. They don't buy. They don't even know the price of gari. They don't even know the price of rice. But now we are telling them as citizens that we want a change. We want a change that is non-negotiable.
We are not happy with what is going on in our country, Nigeria. We want them to reduce the cost of food. It's too high. It's killing us. We can no longer afford 3 square meals a day. They should return fuel subsidy. Return fuel subsidy. That is all we are asking for. We can no longer cope with this punishment. It's too much.
Keep dying of hunger. If you go to some families, some people cannot even afford to eat once a day. So if we don't come out like this to talk, to speak out our mind, the government will not wake up.
Some police armored personnel carrier, APC, several police patrol vehicles were strategically stationed by the side of the road while policemen stood guard to avoid a breakdown of law and order. The demonstration was orderly with no reports of violence or clashes.
When Nigerians are out to express their displeasure about the economy situation, hike in price and stuff like that. So that's what we are doing here. We are Nigerians, we are outside, okay, for our own fundamental rights, for the government to hear us.
The protest continues on Friday, which will be the second out of the planned 10 days.
Before, maybe like that I be big, but now because of discounts over, see where I come stealing like that.
The Day 2 protest started at the Berger roundabout, where the protesters were seen chanting different solidarity songs and carrying placards with different inscriptions. Not too long into the protest, the police started firing tear gas at protesters who were via a court order asked to restrict their protest to the National Stadium, Abuja. At the stadium, the protesters alluded the biting economic policies which have led to the pervasive hunger in the land as reasons for the protest and vowed not to stop until the president meets their demands.
We're here for the Day 2 of the Days of Rage, the End Bad Governance protest in Nigeria. It's simply to make very fundamental request. One, which is the reversal of fuel subsidy. You all agree that fuel subsidy removal has done us a whole lot of bad as a people and a nation. It has heightened our hardship, the hunger is unprecedented, and this needs to be reversed. I understand in the subsidy regime there's a whole lot of criminality, but you don't want to kill corruption and kill the citizens in part of it. You should have analyzed and understood how many million liters of fuel is consumed in Nigeria. Kill the corruption in the subsidy regime and not Nigerians.
If you practice democracy, you know that the right to protest is a fundamental right, even in the African Charter of the Peoples and Human Rights, in the United Nations Charter, and in the Nigerian Constitution, where you say if you go to chapter 4, you have section 39 that talks about freedom of speech, section 40 about freedom of association, section 41 about freedom of movement. So the government must know that whatever they are using the security agencies to do to oppress the peaceful nature of this protest, and even sponsoring co-protesters. For days before this protest, there were people protesting against this protest. Nothing happened to them. There were people protesting that this protest should not happen. Nothing happened to them. Now protest is happening, and there's something going on. There's so much manpower being deployed. If that same manpower has been deployed against banditry, our farmlands would have been saved. So we can't continue to deploy manpower negatively. The Nigerian Constitution is a fundamental right that must be obeyed by those in government. Those in government, we are not beholden to them. Nigerian people are not supposed to be genuflecting anytime they see those in government. It is those in government who should be afraid if there is a democratic election.
We are here, as citizens, to actually, keep to our promise that we are going to protest from August 1st to tents. That is, if government complies with our demands. If they don't comply, we actually continue the protest.
I will also beg my northern brothers and sisters that they should calm down with the rates they have vandalized this government property, because I will still use this money to go and repair these tents. So please stop burning police stations. It wouldn't help us. We are coming out in our numbers to protest against bad governance. We are coming out in our numbers to protest against the inflation rate. We are coming down. There is nothing that I've seen this government do that has pleased me since this government entered. So I am begging the president, come and address us in 24 hours, please.
The protesters marched towards the Eagle Square, but were stopped by security personnel before getting there. Noel Samson, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Unlike other states of the country, where the protest was marred by violence, looting and vandalism, the exercise in Plateau State has been peaceful. The protesters, while blaming governors and members of National Assembly for not doing enough to cushion the hardship in the country, emphasized the need for all participants to remain law-abiding.
Great Nigerian people, great Hausa people, great Igbo people, great Yoruba people, I want to hear, I want to talk. Can somebody shout victory? Honda ya say Yoruba wa? Honda ya say Hausa wa? Honda no Igbo? We are not here because we are jobless. We are here because things must be done right. Our problem is not tinubu, our problem is Nigerian governance. The Senate, the House of Assembly, all of the parastatals. We can't elect them and they are enjoying our suffering.
Today, people can no longer go to school. Yeah. Today, people can no longer farm because the fertilizer is too much. The amount is too much. Farmers cannot even buy it. Even if you buy fertilizer, you cannot go to farm because there is insecurity.
Their children are abroad. They divide us to rule us. They met the pastors. They bribe our pastors, they bribe our imams, they bribe our sheikhs, so that they will keep quiet, they keep oppressing us.
The protesters also blame religious leaders for contributing to the poor leadership in the country by not calling out elected representatives and speaking truth to power.
Akwai leaders da suka yi tunani idan mun zo nan da a yi rikici saboda su suka sa mana rikicin addini.
There are political and religious leaders who believe that if people come for the protest, crisis may erupt because they are the ones who incite religious crisis in the state. By the special grace of God, religious crisis is over in the state. We will not listen to any pastor or imam directing us to elect a particular leader. That is over. We will henceforward vote for the right candidate.
We are standing here as Nigerians. We are not standing here as Muslims or Christians. We are standing here because there is hunger in our land. We can't be in Nigeria and remain quiet where 10% of our citizens are enjoying and 99%, 90% are suffering. We won't be quiet in a country where the elites are downcasting us and downgrading us to nothing. We won't be quiet in a country whereby there is no food, there is hunger.
The former Minister of Youth and Sport and one of the organizers of the protest explains why the ongoing protest is peaceful in the state.
People have been asking for what is the magic of the success of the protest of this Plateau protest. The magic is that the leaders, two leaders, decided to sacrifice their time to identify with the youth. We understood their language. We understood the problem. And so we are here to provide them with leadership, with guidance, so that they can conduct themselves and express themselves. Any person whom you stifle from expression of his mind is likely going to react violently.
Security operatives, including the police, Operation Safe Haven, as well as other security agencies, have commended the protesters for conducting themselves peacefully in the state.
Many thanks to our reporters. The End Bad Governance protest is part of a broader movement where citizens, particularly the youths, mobilize to demand better governance, accountability, and transparency from their leaders. The protests were fueled by widespread frustration over issues such as corruption, insecurity, economic hardship, and a perceived lack of responsiveness from the government. The movement drew support from various segments of society, including civil society organizations, students, and activists who united in their demand for change. While some people made sure their voices were heard, others counted their losses as there were cases of looting and vandalism in some parts of the country, and sadly, lives were lost.
The hunger protest started peacefully in Kaduna, but turned violent, with youth destroying public and private properties. This family is among some of the unfortunate residents whose houses were destroyed and looted.
I was here this morning. I was trying to prepare what me and my family will eat. The next thing I hear noise. They run and enter through the fence. They were hitting the door, the windows, the whole glass. They broke the glass. They entered through the window and opened the whole doors. Even my door, the back door, they removed it because it's an iron door. They removed the whole door. They just ransacked the house, my television, my gas cooker, every property that I'm using to leave house. They ransack it and carry it, including my husband's clothes. They pack my husband's bag of clothes. They carry it and go.
She said she had to maneuver her way to escape.
They came in large numbers. For me to even sneak out, one was saying, see this woman was here, or see this woman. I just ran outside the gates.
Her husband recounted how he helplessly watched his properties being carted away by the looters.
Running with Okada, running to see if the police can alert nearby. So before coming from there, from Katsina, before I get here, everything scattered. They pulled the door, pulled the windows, do away with everything in the room. Scatter both kitchen, clothes, do away with. So it was quite a 1-0 because if you see our property, you know. I saw some on top of bike with my property, but there's nothing I can do than to see whether my wife, because when I started calling her, she no longer answering call again. That's why my mind caught. If they have killed her, because they are in hundreds. When they enter, they took from this fence there. That's why they pulled the fence down.
The protest continues in Kaduna with security agencies on red alert.
This is Murtala Mohammed Way in Kano, one of the most busiest streets in the state. But it has now been deserted, with only presence of security men enforcing compliance with the curfew order.
It
was unfortunate that youth came out yesterday instead of protesting. They ended up stealing people's property, destroying government properties. You will see somebody carrying air conditioner, fan, chair. This is the NCC Digital Park, meant to instill digital skills for youth in Kano State. That was completely destroyed and the ICT equipment looted.
My brother, I cannot talk because this thing affected everybody business so much. Me, particularly, I'm staying inside the market, Sabongeri. It's my wife that is selling this okpa. So now, I cannot go anywhere. No food to eat. My wife must take care of the family because if I go out before I hustle, I get what we eat for us.
Shops along Zaria Road were broken into and food items worth hundreds and thousands were taken away as the protesters equally stormed Audubako Secretariat where they destroyed and looted government properties.
The point is that those in authority, they don't care. Even these protesters again, some of them, I say some of the big men have left the country. Not the solution. I get my point. But our message to the government that they should do something about it, especially Mr. President, because he's supposed to have come out and address the nation since yesterday.
For Kano residents, the protest took an unfortunate, but it was meant to alert the government on the current economic hardship, accusing the government of negligence and incompetence.
From the day one of the entering subsidy, he didn't plan of anything. He removed subsidy. What the meaning is that they want to kill the whole Nigeria. Yes. If you want to remove subsidy, you need to remove subsidy, yes, with brain. You can't just voice out that I remove subsidy and you don't have any plan.
Kano State Governor Abba Kabir had on Thursday declared a 24-hour curfew to prevent further breakdown of law and order arising from the hunger protest and escalating high cost of living among Nigerians.
It was a black day for this family, as their father was shot on the day of the protest, though he was not part of the protest, but he lost his life as a result of violence that erupted.
Yusuf Danso Hospital. They should come and pay for the medical. He now just carried his bag. On his way going, police started shooting. They're now shooting at the back of his head. The person that is carried on top of the machine, he fall, he break his jaw, and he was shot at his stomach. He's still in the 44 hospital up to now.
The already devastated family says his death has created a great vacuum.
We are in pains and have no one to feed us at this time. He would go out every day and fend for us. He was not part of the protest. He was only on his way to the hospital to see his daughter, who was admitted. There he met his death.
He died and left 13 children and 7 dependents living in the rented home.
We are on the rent house, so we don't know how to do. Our issue is that we need government to intervene into this issue. For government to bring that police that shot him and to know how they will do with his children.
And he is the one helping us. He's already died. We don't have anybody now. Please, government, enter this issue.
The remains of Hussein Turaki was laid to rest at the Agbapa cemetery as relatives and sympathizers pray for the repose of his soul.
After the early days of the protest, it grew cold as many streets were deserted. The Moshood Abiola Stadium, the designated protest venue, and the Three Arms Zone where Eagle Square is located appear deserted as the nationwide protests slowed down. At the time of this report, only a few trucks of security operatives were spotted with no protesters in sight. While many streets remained empty, there were more commuters and commercial vehicles than in the first 3 days of the protest. Protest organizers had announced daily demonstrations until August 10th. However, it is uncertain if the protest will continue until the scheduled end date. The government's response has varied, with some attempts to engage with protesters while also deploying security forces to maintain order, which occasionally led to clashes. There were calls for the president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to address Nigerians, of which he did on the 4th day of the protest, 4th August 2024.
My fellow Nigerians, I speak to you today with a heavy heart and sense of responsibility, aware of the turmoil and violent protests unleashed in some of our states. Notably, among the protesters were young Nigerians who desired a better and more progressive country where their dreams, hope, and personal aspiration would be fulfilled. I am especially pained by the loss of lives in Borno, Jigawa, Kano, Kaduna, and other states, the destruction of facilities in some states, and the wanton looting of supermarkets and shops, contrary to the promise of protest organizers that the protest will be peaceful across the country.
After the broadcast came reactions from Nigerians online. Let's take the first one here, which is from the Labour Party's presidential candidate for the 2023 election, Peter Gregory Obi. And he said, Nigerians do not expect the president to solve the nation's problems overnight, but we do expect a concerted effort to address the mismanagement of public resources, reduce the high cost of governance, and tackle issues like insecurity, corruption, electricity, agriculture, and productivity to set the country on a path to recovery and growth. By doing so, the president can restore hope and rekindle the people's faith in our dear country, Nigeria. A new Nigeria is possible. Next is from Manlas Mba, and he said, Mr. President, sir, with due respect, people are not concerned about what you're saying. We are more concerned about food supplements at cheap rates and also petrol subsidy at its best domain. We hereby request and demand for an urgent way of tackling the poor masses' problem. Another person said, Mr. President, I supported you during the election. I voted for you. But Mr. President, this suffering is too much. We are hungry. The fuel price is ridiculous. Please do something as soon as possible. And the last but not the least comment here is, Mr. President Asiwaju Tinubu, may God grant you more wisdom and strength to bring Nigeria back on the track of progress and prosperity to give Nigerians the best life we deserve. God bless Nigeria. There is a growing sense of urgency among the Nigerian youths who feel that meaningful change is long overdue. They are demanding a government that is accountable, transparent, and truly representative of the people's will. Whether the movement will lead to substantial reforms remains to be seen, but it has undoubtedly sparked a new wave of political consciousness among Nigerians, particularly the younger generation. And now to usher in the weekend, let's take a look at what it feels like to walk in a woman's shoes. Take a look. Or next time your sister or wife wears high heels and isn't working fast, watch this video again and see the struggles to look good and elegant. And that's a wrap on the program today. Do all to follow us across all our social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and X. Until next time, goodbye.